Welcome back to Misheard Song Lyrics. We're in episode 29. It's going fast. We're going to be talking about our first Depeche Mode misheard song lyrics on their song called Strangelove. The misheard lyric that I've heard and others have also shared with me is strange eyes and strange nose, which could be probably a theme song to many a botched cosmetic surgery. The correct lyrics is strange highs and strange lows. And Strange Love is the 18th UK single by Depeche Mode. It actually was released back on April 13th, 1987, as the lead single from their sixth studio album called Music for the Masses. I had that cassette tape, so I know it very well. And Depeche Mode, if you didn't know that already, are an English electronic music band formed in a place called Basildon, Essex in 1980. And Basildon is the largest town in the borough of Basildon, with a population of over 100,000 in the county of Essex, England. Or for those that can be a little bit more helpful, it lies about 26 miles or 42 kilometers east of central London. Never been, but you never know. Depeche Mode now consists of a trio of Dave Gahan, lead vocals and co-songwriting, Martin Gore, who does keyboards, guitar, co-lead vocals, and the main songwriting, and Andy Fletcher with keyboards. So let's talk about how they got their name. So the origin of the name comes down to two of the original band members, Dave Gahan and Martin Gore. And I found the reference to how they got their name in several sites on the internet. But what it looks like to be a consistent message is it's when both Gahan and Martin Gore, before joining founding members Vincent Clarke and Andy Fletcher, who's also the guitarist, keyboard, songwriter, Gore was in a group called the French Look. So when Gahan joined the trio in spring of 1980, it was his idea to name the new lineup after a French magazine called Depeche Mode. So it roughly translates to fast fashion or fashion dispatch or fashion news. And Martin Gore, when asked about the name Depeche Mode, said, quote unquote, it means hurried fashion or fashion dispatch. I like the sound of that, and it does sound great. And this combination of a progressive sound with the influence of a French fashion as progressive as well led to the band choosing its clever name, which has been a pretty good, as they say, hook for decades now. So that's how Depeche Mode got their name and what it kind of means. So Depeche Mode released their debut album called Speak and Spell in 1981, bringing the band onto the British new wave scene. And so what does new wave mean? Well, when I looked it up on Wikipedia and other sites, it says new wave, also sometimes known as techno pop, is of course a rock music subgenre, and it encompasses numerous like pop-oriented music styles popular in the late 1970s and the 1980s. It is rooted in mid 1970s punk rock, so there's some punk rock influence there. Uh, and new wave moved away from traditional blues and rock and roll sounds to create a punk slash rock music that incorporated disco, mod, and electronic music. It also engendered subgenres and fusions, including synth pop, which we talked about many episodes earlier with the heavy synthesizer. New wave differs from other movements with ties to first again wave punk, as it displays characteristics common to pop music rather than the more artsy post punk. Although it incorporates much of the original punk rock sounds and ethos, new wave exhibits greater complexity in both music and lyrics. The common characteristics you'll see of new wave music includes the use again of synthesizers and electronic productions and a distinctive visual style featured in music videos and fashion. And that's why new wave did so well in the 80s because of the explosion of MTV. It was promoted heavily, as you know, the Bugles was the first music video promoted on MTV's launch with their video Kill the Radio Star. And then the popularity of several new wave artists is often attributed to their exposure on the channel. So that's what new wave was about. So let's go back to Depeche Mode. So founding member Vincent Clarke left after the release of the album. They recorded A Broken Frame as a trio, and then Gore took over as the main songwriter, and later in 1982, Alan Wilder replaced Clarke, establishing that same lineup for the next 13 years. The band's last album of the 1980s, Black Celebration and Music for the Masses, established them as a dominant force with the electronic music scene. I mean, just growing up in my world in Oregon, which is a state in the United States, for those of you that are listening outside of the United States, They were very big, especially with a place I would always go to, an underage dance club called Confetti's. For some of you listening, you've been there, you know who you are. And prior to that, it was Scoochie's and many iterations. Now, the same place of Confetti's is a market with several eateries. So it's amazing what happens after 30 years. The band's last albums of the 1980s, Black Celebration and Music for the Masses again established them as a dominant force, as I said earlier. But they also achieved greatness, I guess, with the highlight of their era when the band's June 1988 concert was at the Pasadena Rose Bowl, which is pretty big, where they drew a crowd of excess of 60,000 people. That's pretty amazing. And in early 1990, they released Violator, an international mainstream success. And then the following album after that was Songs of Faith and Devotion, released in 1993, was also a success, though internal struggles with the band started to culminate during the recording and touring, which resulted in Wilder departing in 1995. Since then, Depeche Mode has had 54 songs in the UK. Oh, wow, that's a lot. Singles chart and 17 top 10 albums in the UK chart. They have sold over 100 million records worldwide, and Q included the band in the list of the 50 bands that changed the world. More stats include that they also released a total of 14 studio albums, 10 compilation albums, 6 live albums, wow, 8 box sets, and 13 video albums with 71 music videos and, like I said earlier, 54 singles. They have sold over 100 million records and played live to more than 30 million fans worldwide. I never did get to see them in the 80s, but I did get to see them several years ago here in Portland, Oregon, and they were wonderful. The band also has 50 songs in the UK singles chart and 1 US and 2 UK number 1 albums. In addition, all of their studio albums have reached the UK top 10, and their albums have spent over 210 weeks on the UK chart. So just impressive altogether. Depeche Mode also ranks number 98 on VH1's 100 Greatest Artists of All Times. And in December 2016, Billboard named Depeche Mode the 10th most successful dance club artist of all times, and they're still going. So let's learn a little bit about the song Strangelove. It's a great, again, dance music. Also has a video that we'll be talking about in a second, but it in itself reached number 16 on the UK singles chart, number 2 in West Germany and in South Africa, and was a top 10 success in several other countries, including Ireland, Sweden, and Switzerland. And in the US, it reached about number 76 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was the first of 9 number ones on the US dance charts, where it stayed for 3 weeks at the top. And I remember it then. The original version of Strangelove is actually a fast-paced pop track. I didn't know there wasn't even an original version. I thought they were the only ones that did it. Though successful, this did not seem to fit with Music for the Masses' darker side. So Daniel Miller made a slower version that became the album version. So it was still done by Depeche Mode, but they took it and remastered it. And then Alan Wilder, in the QA section of his Recall website, writes that the band felt the single version was too cluttered. And the reason Miller's remix was commissioned to kind of declutter it, I guess. Miller expounded on this in the Music for the Masses remastered documentary DVD. If you have it, listen to it, or you can find it on probably YouTube. He stated he felt the original version was too complicated and would benefit from being simplified. Sometimes simple is better, right? It was remixed by production team Bomb the Bass, love that, and released again as a single in the U.S. as Strangelove 88, reaching this time number 50 on the Hot 100. So let's talk about the music video. It was also released back in 87. It was directed by a gentleman by the name of Anton Corbijn, who appears on the Strange video, and the video's 86 to 98. It was shot on a Super 8 and monochrome, so I remembered it as a young kid seeing it then, and now looking at it again on YouTube. It's in that black and white, has backdrops of the Eiffel Tower, very French, very mysterious. Again, the video sees the band in various Paris locations, hotel rooms, and studio posing in front of a rolling backdrop. The live action is combined with short stop-frame animation sequences. It also stars 2 models in underwear, of course. One of them, I guess, apparently was dating or was a partner of Anton Corbijn, the director of the video. He's like, well, you might as well be in my video. That's usually how it happens. As well as passing pedestrians featured in the closing outtake sequence of fast edit shots. In the USA, MTV objected to some of the more revealing footage of the models, and the video was edited to replace them with images of the band. Oh, USA. Especially now that you see what is on TV now, this is nothing. Then in 1988, another video for Strangelove was released for the album version. It was directed by Martin Atkins, so someone totally different, who did photography for earlier Depeche Mode albums. It was not publicly released on any video cassettes or DVDs until the video's 86 to 98 plus DVD in 2002. And you can find it on YouTube. This video is much simpler than the original and features the band performing inside like a cityscape location, at which we find out it's the Senate House, the federal headquarters of the University of London. So check out the one in 87 and the one that came out in 88. Now, did you know there were several things about, when Depeche Mode songwriter was asked about Gore, about, the song itself, he said in a magazine issue of Bong, number 37 in 1988, this is what he said, quote unquote, "I really like this track, and I think it's one of the poppiest singles on this collection. Somehow I don't know if it still works for me." Interesting. "Occasionally in our career we've stepped on the wrong side of commerciality, not very often, and Strangelove is just on the right side. It's like Enjoy the Silence, it's just on the right side of commerciality. There's a line, and if you step over it too far, it becomes bland pop music," and that's what Gore said about the song. And then Strangelove actually was also sampled in many songs that I did not know. One being a Ja Rule song called Life Ain't a Game, I Won't Be Crying song by Infernal, and by Kid Rock, song called F You Blind. And then someone by the name of Samantha Mumba and her song Point of View. So check those out to hear their versions of it. And then last but not least, they were nominated just recently for induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That was back in 2017 and 2018, and finally will be officially inducted as part of the class of 2020, so this year. So it took a little bit of time, but they'll be part of that. So hopefully it brought you back down to memory lane. It did for me, like I said, going to confettis, wearing all black, dancing my certain way, looking all cool. I thought I was cool. And then it also brought back, kind of the kind of the fun kind of, I call it also goth time of that 87, 88 time, with a lot of friends that I went to school with that would experiment with, their fashion, their makeup. So it's a great song, and like I said, it made sense. Strange eyes and strange nose. I mean, like some say, that's a strange love, but it is not that. So hopefully you enjoyed this romp around Depeche Mode. There might be some other misheard songs, but enjoy the silence. Bye.